Welcome to today's episode of Behind the Lens podcast. I'm super pumped and excited to be sharing today's interview, or guest, I should say, which is Kelly Bowen. So Kelly Bowen is an amazing human. She is the director or founder, if you will, of a company called Lifestyle Finance, which we'll talk more about in the interview. But I really enjoy today's episode. Both Kelly and I have known each other through a couple of, ups and downs in our own, respective lives. And and there's some really cool things that we talk about throughout today's podcast. So today's podcast is powered by Triple Effect Media. This is where we create 6 months worth of video content for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, and film it all in a space of 2 days. So we do everything from scripting, filming, editing, and publishing all of the videos to all of the different social media platforms on a weekly basis. So if you're interested in finding out more about Triple Effect, head to tripleeffect.com.au and you can find a whole bunch of info there. Otherwise, let's get started with today's show. All right, so today we have the amazing, beautiful, and incredible Kelly Bowen on the potty. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ellen. That was a lovely introduction.
Well, for a lovely lady, it's well-deserved anyway. So first of all, to give some context as to who you are and what you do you want to just give the people a little bit of an explanation as to Kelly Bowen, Lifestyle Finance, what you do in the finance world?
Yeah, sure. So I act a little bit differently in the finance world to most finance brokers. So typically, you'd approach a finance broker if you wanted them to help you buy a boat, a motorbike, a car, a home. However, that stuff for me was just a little bit boring, and it was great helping people achieve superficial dreams. Well, not really superficial dreams, but more of that instant gratification. But for me, as somebody who's always been driven by making a difference and leaving the world even more awesome than it currently already is, it just kind of wasn't enough. And I'd always come from the coaching space. So what we specialize in is financing using personal loan finance to put behind coaching programs for growth and personal development, which has been really awesome because for the first time ever, you can now get funding for your growth and education, where it used to be totally normal to get like a HECS for uni. But what about the real stuff, the stuff that changes your life, the stuff where you can completely reinvent yourself, the stuff that you can plug into your business and catapult yourself like timelines into the future, like bring a 10-year goal into a 2-year kind of thing because you got the right support behind you. So essentially, that's what we specialize in, is helping you get funding to do the growth and development programs that really get you to where you want to be, where you're living a life that's thriving and of your dreams, not somebody else's.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're absolutely right. Like I had a podcast with Drew Slater yesterday.
What a legend.
Yes. Yeah. So I was having a podcast with Drew. I was listening to, there was actually 2 other podcasts that I was listening to. And just to touch on the note that you've just made about like university and whatnot, like all of the people who went to university and what they did in university is not what they ended up, like what they learnt in university felt more of like a filling in a gap rather than actually operating from. And what you're talking about is exactly correct in the sense of like you're finding a coach or someone who does something that's very, very specific to, something that you want to do, achieve, be, whatever the case is. And we, will, jump at the opportunity to have some HECS and things like that. But obviously looking at it from a different point of view of obviously being able to invest in, education or, personal development and all those other things. On that point, yeah. I'd love to understand or like kick off, I guess, in understanding you're obviously in this personal development world, you've invested quite, significant amount into your own education and things like that. Why is it important to you?
Why is it important to me to continually invest in your own growth and personal development? Is that the question?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, look, I think when it comes to making, I guess, intelligent investments, you're always going to be your best investment. You can't go wrong. Any dollar you spend on yourself, not even money, like anytime you put time, money, and energy into yourself and developing you and becoming the best version of yourself or investing in your potential, you're going to get a 10x return, because nothing appreciates faster than you do when you give yourself that love and attention. And I think we've been programmed into a culture where it's go to school, then go to uni to get a good job, to get the house with the white picket fence and have the 2.5 children and marry well, and then you go through a very traditional style of, well, then we'll get our second house and then we'll get this, and before you know it, you're mortgaged to your eyeballs, you're working a job that you hate, you feel like your soul's dying. And I think there's been this huge shift in where people are starting to go, hang on a minute, I can't live like this anymore. And there's been this huge rising of people going, well, hold on a minute, I'm like, what is my purpose here, but how do I want to live? And if I'm going to choose to live as opposed to exist, which is really what I'm doing, following that old traditional way of growth, if I'm going to truly live, what kind of a life do I want to live? And if that's the life that I want to live, what do I need to do to get there? That always comes down to, who do I need to become to create that lifestyle? And that becoming part, that's the part that needs the time, energy, and money invested in. And but what happens, most people think, like, when they're looking at doing growth and education programs, like, to really get those tangible life skills, it's not cheap. It could cost you anywhere between, depending upon what you're doing, $5,000 to $50,000 to work with like a high-end mentor. And most people don't have that kind of money lying around in their bank account. And then that's when you have to start getting creative and asking the question that, if I'm going to invest that in me, where can I get that from? And even then, like, if you comparatively take a between 5 to 50K investment in yourself and think about, well, if I was to put that money into myself and commit fully to whatever it is that I'm saying yes to right now, where am I going to be in 5 and 10 years' time?
Yeah.
With that amount of money, you probably wouldn't even have enough for a deposit to purchase a house.
Yeah.
And a house isn't going to appreciate anywhere near the amount that you will in that 10 years.
Yeah.
So for me, like, this is why it's always so important to continually invest time, money, and energy into yourself, because you're the one that has the $1 million idea. You're the one that knows the kind of life that you want to live. And the more time that you spend cultivating and loving that, the more you're going to live into that.
Yeah. I love that. And like, I couldn't agree more. Like, from my own personal experience, like, I've found way more value in investing in myself. And, right now, we're about to move into our home and look to invest in some property later on down the track, and a whole range of other things. But a lot of my personal growth and where our business has come from has been the ability to be able to invest in, courses, programs, coaches who have helped me transform and be able to do what we do. So just to sort of cap off on, what it is that, when it comes to finance, I actually talk about, because we do obviously your videos for lifestyle finance and whatnot. I actually talk about you and your products a lot. And I often say, and you may feel free to reframe this for me, but I often say you're almost like an afterpay option for coaches and, and potential education. Is that a fair way of summing it up?
Kind of, but selling it a little bit short. And before I go into that question, I just want to circle back to the comment that you made about how your own investment in yourself, because I think you've also totally sold your own growth journey short. Because and Alan's very humble. For anybody that hasn't, that's maybe been following this show for some time, Alan is an incredible guy. What he does with his business is amazing. And I want to give you a couple of minutes of the spotlight there, because you are a perfect example of my previous comment about why it's so important to invest in yourself. And I just want to give you a moment, because you did have the house and you were on that path.
Yeah.
Your soul was like, I can't keep doing this. And you sold your house to
moved
out of the city. Like, Alan is an absolute testament to this. And the effect is that I've watched you do it over the past, how many years? 3 years?
So we sold our house 4 years ago, and moved up. So I was living west of Sydney, and now moved up to the Central Coast, which is about an hour and a half north, a little bit more rural. But yeah, absolutely. Like and during that process, we had to what money we did pull out of the home ended up drying up because I was starting a business and going through that process. And yeah, you were with me from that very point where I left my full-time job 4 years ago, moved away from, the Sydney, 4 years ago. Yeah, absolutely.
Hired his wife, brought her out of a job that she wasn't necessarily feeling fulfilled with. You've both created a business that you love, that's making a difference, that gives you a level of time freedom. You get to be with the kids. And now you're able to grow that business to a point where you've just bought the property again. So it's not that we don't, we forgo those things, but it's like now you're on that path of creating extra wealth, not on somebody else's timeline. You're on your timeline because you chose to invest time, money, and energy into yourself. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that, because it's the exact example of everything that I was just talking about. You are the answer to the question you asked me.
I love that. Well, thank you. No, thank you. Because you have and this is one of the reasons why I love our chats, is because we've both been through, obviously significant changes in between the time that we've known each other. And yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And to answer the Afterpay question, so for me,
sorry, my apologies that I've sold it short, but yeah, I'd love to hear how you'd explain it. Yeah.
So Afterpay is great. Like Afterpay, and there are different tiers of finance. So Afterpay is like bottom tier. Afterpay typically encourages people to spend money that they don't have to buy superficial purchases. Like, I'll get those shoes, and I'll get that dress, and I'll get those Christmas presents or the school books or whatever. And sometimes it's really awesome because it actually allows families that are struggling a little bit to be able to get what they need and pay it off over a time that works for their budget, which is awesome. Yeah. But when we're looking at growth in education, the way that I'd like to think about in terms of how we work is sort of the next level up. So being personal loan finance is exactly that. It means that we can use personal loan finance to look at your overall finance profile, and we can see everything that's going on, not just the course that you're wanting to do. We can look at your long-term goal in terms of where you actually want to be and what you're trying to achieve within the next few years, and work in how we get you there and your existing financial commitments into something that totally frees up your cash flow so that your education is paid off in a way that you don't even realize it's coming out of your bank account. And what spare cash flow you do have, you've got that at the front end of your business, or wherever you need to do powerful things like invest in marketing, sales teams, automations, VAs, that kind of stuff to help you grow and scale. So the way that I like to think about us is we're not just the vehicle to get you the education that you need at an affordable price. We can actually help you and set you up financially for that 5-year goal, so that you can literally do what Alan's doing right now. You can get out of that grind and really live powerfully on your own terms, doing what you love, and not feel that you're building in scarcity because you're worried about payments coming out of your bank account. There is an abundance of money there for you to continue to invest in growth. Yeah.
Also, I think what we've overlooked on, and we talk about it, you talk about it a lot in your videos, is the flip side of the coach who now gets to have the upfront payment and cash flow to be able to hire more, do more, and all those other things. And I know you did touch on it and whatnot, but it's a really important factor, because I know for my own business and what we do, if it wasn't for that cash flow, there's no way that you can take those steps in anticipation for, hiring someone of a high caliber, or paying for, good quality videos, or whatever the case is, right? But it all sort of comes together so that when you do have cash flow, it's obviously oxygen to a business. And when you have that oxygen, when you have that cash flow, it just allows you to rest easy more, obviously have your margins, put money away for tax and all those other things, but also invest, whether it is into more personal development, whether it is more into marketing, whether it is into more of those things. And so it sounds like, and I think that's like even just before we were talking, you were talking about like helping people build their sales processes and all those other things. But it must be really cool to obviously play that part in other people's businesses as well.
Yeah, so one of the things, so when I started off in finance, it was never meant to be like, I never went, yay, I want to have a career in finance. Like I was literally talking with my best friend the other day about like, if this version of me could go back and talk to 10-year ago version of me, if I was to tell that version she would own a finance brokerage, she would laugh. Finance was part of the plan. It was an accident that happened because I was broke at the time and needed to get more money to invest into my coaching business. It just so happened that the opportunity sort of presented itself where I got to buy that brokerage off of my best friend at the time, and that we realized we could use personal loan finance to support coaches because, one, it made that barrier to yes drop right down, that people, it just made it so much easier for people to step into their greatness in that saying yes. But not necessarily more importantly, but maybe more powerfully, what that made available to the coaches was that it solved two of the biggest problems. One was cash flow, because instead of having to wait for anywhere between 6 to 12 months to receive payment for the goods and services you've often already delivered, you can get that in the bank from day one with finance. And second, it solved the problem of payment plans. So instead of you having to run around being a debt collector for your clients, we outsource that to the bank that has the risk team to support that, and you just focus on doing what you got into coaching for in the first place. It is making a difference. It's helping people realize their fullest potential. It is creating impact. It is leaving the world a better place than it was before you were here. It is creating that legacy. And when good people have good money. When good people have money, they do good things with it. And when I realized that those dots could connect, that's where I was like, holy shit, well, maybe I don't necessarily end up with a coaching business, but I can stand behind all the coaches that are doing the groundwork, that are helping raise the frequency of the planet to leave the world in a better place for the next generations to come. So they never have to, go take another job because they're broke and need more money to invest in their business, because it solves that problem. And it just, like, when it's done right, it flows so beautifully because, like you said, Alan, like how it totally changed your business. You're able to hire good people, to hire a good team. Like, you knew the money.
Pay for good systems,
good systems. And the thing that happens too to the nervous system when that base prime security is taken care of, it comes out of like that survival, like, where's the threat? Who do I have to deal with next? To, okay, well, now I'm thriving. And when you're in that thriving space, you get the heart expansion, the
flow.
Yeah, exactly. The creativity flow. Yeah. And you can start really living that 10-year vision, which includes impact millions. So the ripple-on effect of that is just, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, because exactly right. And just to add on to that point, like, I think what's even more important is you get to be a little bit more selective of who you do choose to work with and give your time, attention, energy to, because that's really important as well. It's like, it's all well and good to make money, but it's even like, if it's not really, like, if you have to struggle or like constantly convince and push, it becomes an uphill battle, obviously. But when you're able to have that financial backing, which then allows you to work with whomever that is, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And it also allows you to, like, gosh, we've all been in that place where we've been a little bit strapped and we've said yes to somebody, to working with somebody that we knew was going to be a pain in the ass, and it always ends up that way. But when this is there, it allows you to be selective and discerning, so that you're only working with what I like to call your soulmate clients, the clients
intentional,
that you're excited to get on the calls with, you're excited to show up for. When you're with them, it gives you energy. So this whole concept of, because I know one of the biggest things that coaches are challenged with is burnout, because so many people are wanting so much from them. But I find that's more so of a problem when they're working with people that they don't feel super connected to or inspired by or in love with the working with process. Because when that's there and you're able to be more selective about that, and you're only working with people that you feel fueled and charged and energized with when you get off that call, burnout isn't a problem anymore.
No. I love that. All right. So there's something that you were talking about that I'd love to, I guess, dive into a little bit more. You talked about purchasing your brokerage off your best friend.
Yes.
Now, I think we have talked about this, but I'm really curious to understand, even from this angle. Now, getting offered to buy a brokerage just doesn't occur or just pop out of thin air. You somehow created it, whether it's an intention that you said early, whether it's just the right time, right place. But I'd love to understand the story of like how you believe that actually happened.
I think there was a lot of right time, right place, and my best friend loves me a lot. So, how did that happen?
Or let me ask you this then: like, what were you doing for your best friend to be able to say, "I trust you, Kelly. Here we go."
Okay, so I guess the relationship that her and I had, like we both started our coaching businesses together. And we had, like, we'd been doing a lot of Tony Robbins events, and I was like, yeah, let's like make them, you know, follow model of excellence. It's kind of like the NLP principles. So we'd sort of set up events similar to that. And if we weren't doing her events one weekend, we were doing my events one weekend, and she'd crew for me and I'd crew for her. And her business was in business coaching and marketing at the time. Mine was in like health and life. And I remember at the time, she was like, I'm going to be a master at marketing. Like, I'm going to absolutely nail that because that's what a business like this needs to grow. And my attitude was a little bit more along the lines of, I'll just be really great at what I do and I'll get lots of referrals and I won't have to worry about marketing because I don't like that. So we can kind of guess which business grew and which one didn't. And even though that, like, it took me a while to get the marketing concepts. It took me a while to get that, like, in our marketing, we're actually serving our clients. And if we're not able to communicate our message and what we're doing, we're not serving. No matter whether we're talking to the open market, whether we're talking to people we've had several conversations with, whether they're our clients or whether they're post clients. If we're not able to effectively communicate and cut through, then we're not serving. She was brilliant at it. I just didn't get it. It took me a while to catch up with that one. Anyway, once I did though, it was funny because when I got to a point where I'd done the thing that most coaches do at the beginning of the journey, you just keep reinvesting in your skills because you don't think that you've got a sales and marketing problem. You think you've got a skills problem. If I could just learn this, then I can give them that, and then the thing will fix. No, it doesn't work like that. Sales and marketing. And then you also see the reverse of that, where some people are super awesome at sales and marketing and the delivery sucks. So, like, whereas mine, if I got you, you loved me, you weren't going anywhere. But you was the thing. So anyway, I got to a point where I was spending, I don't know, at this point, I wasn't making much. I wasn't even earning six figures. And I was probably spending anywhere between, like, around about $2,500 a month just on education stuff going out. So I had a basic living and then nothing to invest in the parts of the business that I really needed to make it grow. And I was struggling. Like, I had people defaulting on payment plans because I said yes to people that I shouldn't, but they knew they needed to be there, but they couldn't really afford it. Anyway, any coach listening to this will know the drill on that. So my best friend said, come work with me. You know, you can follow my path. She had literally transitioned out of finance into her own business, and she had a small brokerage at the time, and she needed somebody to kind of step in so that she could be more in her own business. And it just worked, that I was in the right place at the right place. Right time, right place. She knows that I'm great at selling. And then, so that started. And because of my nature, one of the reasons why I wanted my own business was because I wanted to create a level of freedom for myself. And I wanted something that I could put my heart and soul into and my values and create my expression in the world. Probably couldn't have languaged it quite like that back at the time, but that was something that was really important to me. And having come from corporate, I just felt the further up the corporate ladder I went, the more they wanted to strip that out of me and make me their little robot, which just didn't fly with me. So I remember saying to her at one point, like when I was starting to get these nudges and I'd been doing a lot of soul work, it was let go of your coaching business and go full-time finance. And I'm like, why are you telling me to do that? We're financing motorbikes and boats and cars, which is like great, but where's the deeper meaning? So I said, well, look, I'm getting these crazy nudges. If I was to do this and go full-time finance and let go of my coaching business, is there an opportunity for me to become a business partner and have like a 50-50 ownership with you? And she was like, yeah, okay, sure. Well, you know, you do everything for 12 months. Show me what you've got. And if you get some good results, then yeah, I think that feels pretty good. So and then we can talk about it. So I did, and it was within that time, that's when we realized we could put the personal loan finance behind the growth and education programs, and we implemented it in the business, and it went really well. And then it's sort of like we rolled it out to some other coaches. And then that's when she was already so far off in her business and so far removed from like the brokerage itself, that when I asked her, you know, what like, if I was to buy this off you, how much would you, like, what would you want for it? That she was open to that conversation.
Yeah. And
it was like, a good business person wouldn't have let go of a business like that. But I think it was more just, gosh, we'd been, I don't know, we'd probably been friends for maybe 6-7 years by this point, and we've been on huge journeys together. We've been instrumental in each other's growth and our own businesses. That, yeah, I think I got that one because she's a gorgeous, generous person and saw the potential and made me an offer that was irresistible. And
yeah. So during that story, you know how you were telling me I grossly overlooked a few things. I think you have as well. And I'm willing, and I'd love to point them out, including the fact that obviously I know that you're a world champion skier, water skier. And also, you know, there's a few other things like, and so one of the things that I can hear that a lot of people probably can't is how much commitment you have to something when you understand it and really align yourself to it. Yes. And I've seen you do this in multiple facets and areas, not only with like when you've accepted the idea of, you know, doing videos with us and how you've adopted it, implemented it, you know, collaborated on all those other things. But take us back to the world, like the water skiing days. Talk to me about what are some of the things that, like, what I'm really keen to hear is what are some habits or what are some things that you remember or have taken from the sporting era of your life or chapter of your life and implemented it into your business? What are some of the things that, from that part of your life?
Oh, I like this question, Alan. The first thing that comes to mind was back in my skiing days. Well, number one, I work really good on 10-year plans. Give me a 10-year plan, and I seem to work really well with it. That's how long it took me to win a world title. And
why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is? Because I'm really persistent, and I have a level of resilience and tenacity that if I can see the vision and I can see the potential in something, and if it just means that I have to, if it means the only thing that's between me and that outcome is me consistently getting up and showing up and just keep doing the do, then I can do that. And I've been so fortunate that I've always had phenomenal mentors. So, like, just back to that question, what do I think that skiing really taught me? Like, and it took me 10 years to win that world title. My coach that I had, she was incredible. She was so loving. Jodie, if you're listening, this is a shout out to you. You know how much I love you and how much you've changed my life for the better. But she taught me. So this is what would happen, right? Every day I would be on the water. I would be on the water at least 4 times a day, practicing the different events. I was a tournament skier, so we do tricks, slalom, and jump. Now, you don't become a world champion overnight because you're awesome. You become a world champion because you're okay with falling on your face, getting smashed, like getting it wrong. Like literally there were some tricks where I'd learn, I would try it, and I'd literally fall 20, 30 times, like big falls, and just have to get up and do it again and do it again. But every time the boat came back around and Jodie was in the boat, she would always tell me one thing that I did really awesome about the thing. Then she would give me the thing that I need to try for the next time and give me that little bit of encouragement and remind me of why I was doing it. So this got embedded into my nervous system that as long as I'm willing to get up, show up, and keep going, then I'm going to eventually get there. And every time I pass a level, there's going to be a new trick, a new rope line length, a new goal to go for. That there was always this never-ending benchmark of potential improvement. And each time that I moved the benchmark, there was this challenge of me coming up against me to improve and better myself. So it's been like unconsciously programmed into my neurology and my DNA since I was 10 years old that if I want to achieve something and achieve a level of greatness, this is the process. So some of it, like, I really have to consciously remind myself of, and other times unconsciously, it's just about, well, that sat me on my ass. I'm just going to get up and try again. And as long as I can get up, I will keep showing up and I will keep moving toward whatever that outcome is.
And what a beautiful little story as well. And it really ties back to, like, obviously what you're doing on a daily basis. You're helping to, like, you obviously recall and appreciate Jody for what she did. Great mentors, great coaches. And now, like, not only are you supporting yourself, but also supporting other coaches and mentors and all those other people because of the difference that it's made in your business. Have you ever made that connection for yourself?
I have, and I think that's why I feel such a passion to give back and to create that space for others because of what that space did for me. And even when, like, the voices I hear in my head around that, they're really loving. So some people, like, that's not to say that I haven't had to do a lot of work of dismantling the high achiever and the drill sergeant inside of me that would take me to adrenal burnout at the beginning. But in terms of, like, the voice that tells me to get up and try again, or, you know, just try it this way this time, or just do a little bit differently, it's quite loving and kind, and never does it have me look at myself like a failure. Because the coding and the entrainment that I got with her was always so much love. It was never, you're useless, you're unworthy, you suck, you're shitty. Like, it was always you're doing so great. And that was so awesome, and you're so close. Just try doing this next time. You've got this. There was always so much encouragement around the feedback I was getting around my failure. So I learned to fail in a really positive way, I guess. So now when I do it, I don't experience my failure like as in an ultimate failure. Sure, I get disappointed, frustrated, annoyed. All of those other things are there, but not at the same degree that I think people that haven't had that conditioning experience it.
Yeah.
It's very momentary, and there's no part of that for me that feels like it's permanent. It always feels like it's just a process. And it's, there's a level of love that comes with, like, that growth mindset that's being created.
Absolutely.
And I like
what
that back.
Yeah, and what I continually hear as you talk is, like, I was falling flat on my face. I was failing. I was, but I still got back up. And that's really, like, if you simplify business, it's falling down flat on your face 9 times, getting up the 10th time and it working, or something just clicks, or right place, right time, whatever it is. And I think that's a perfect example of, not only business, but life and everything, because the more that you are willing to try and fail and keep going, the more beauty, opportunity, and all those other things that the world offers as well.
Absolutely. And I think, like, I still remember, like, after I won my world title, I remember having this moment of, like, fuck, did my life peak at 19? What am I going to do with the other 80 years that I'm meant to be here? Like, holy shit. And then I had this fear of, like, doing anything new because I had been the very best at something. And then there was this fear for a while that, like, stopped me to try new things, to do new things. But then once I got beyond that and I found something that my heart was passionate about, that I could truly invest all of myself into, the rest overrode all of that. And I think that's, like, such a big part. Like, it's all well and good to have resilience and tenacity and grit, but if your heart's not in it, that's not going to go very far, because then you're using willpower, and that's only going to go so far. And I think, like, that's, if I was to kind of look back at it, like, the secret to anything that's had me keep going beyond points of, like, where more parts of me were like quit, was that my heart was fully invested in whatever it was that I was in. And this is, like, and the things that have really had that kick in, and why I think the finance brokerage has become what it is, and the support for coaches, is that that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people that are making a difference, make an even greater difference. And that will always have me stand up.
Boom. There we go. I did have a question. So obviously, like fast forward, through to today. How long have you been a part of that finance brokerage now?
October 2014. So what are we now? So nearly
Wow,
8
9 years, going on to your 10th year.
God, I should almost get myself on service leave.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, 2014. Sorry, 8 years going into 9 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm losing track. But I'm really curious. So I'm obviously quite close. Like we're quite close, and we talk a lot, and obviously work together as well. So I'm aware of what's happening in the background for you, and all those other things. It feels like, and I'd love for you to expand on this if you're open to, feels like right now you're at a point where you're actually expanding past, the means of obviously serving and helping coaches. You've obviously got an incredible team, some incredible people helping you. And now you're exploring more, even deeper into some of the other layers and other aspects of people's businesses. From what I understand, you do work with people or coach with people directly. Do you want to tell me more about almost the evolution of, taking on that brokerage, being, because you were running it solo for quite some time, obviously have some incredible team members, including Gary, who I love. But yeah, you've obviously built a team and everything else. So talk to me about some of the lessons or some of the things that you've sort of had to adapt during that process as well.
Oh, good question. Patience. Lots of patience. Choosing the right people is probably going to be one of the biggest ones at the beginning, and not scaling before you're ready. So in the early days, this is well before I even realized could do finance for coaching programs. But I've grown the business to a certain level. I'm not even sure whether I had the partnership then. No, I think I was still just an employee of the business, or like a subcontractor to the business. But we tried to bring a second broker in, and it was the wrong person, and we knew it at the time, but wanted to make it work because my best friend and I wanted to go on a holiday. We wanted to go to A-Fest and go to Ibiza, and the only way we could do it and leave the business is if we hired somebody.
Yeah.
It was a fucking disaster. Oh my gosh. I learned so much in that about not hiring the wrong people and not scaling for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And then I tried to do it again. And this is when I just purchased the business. So I was still paying off the business. I had my first broker, Roger, who, if any of you dealt with him, he's a legend. My God, I love that guy so much. So it was him, and I just trained him, and he was just starting to sort of function a little bit autonomously. And I was like, right, I want to stop writing deals. And then you can hear the entitlement, right? So then I hired somebody else, wrong person, and again, crash. So, and it wasn't until I hired, then I learned if I really want to scale, I can't be doing it for any of my own selfish entitled reasons or that I want a holiday or I don't want to whatever. It has to be because it's the right thing for the business. So then third time lucky, and you mentioned Gary before.
I actually meant to mention, it was actually Roger. I think we talk about, so it was actually Roger, but I've never spoken to Gary before. I know that we've spoken about Gary, but it's actually Roger that I've dealt with. Sorry, Gary. Sorry, Roger.
That's okay. I'm sure they won't mind.
Yeah.
So then when I hired Gary, I'd intentionally made the decision that I was going to build the business to the level where I had the cash flow to support it and the cash capital to support it. And that I also had the time available to invest in the development of that staff member properly. So when I had those three factors, I had the cash flow in the business consistently, not just, I had a great month, let's hire somebody. I'd consistently been doing this for, I think it was 4 months, and it was continuously growing. So I was like, okay, well, that's very good signs. Being fully aware that when I bring another energy into the business, that does affect the flow of things, because now we're calibrating another energy. I had the cash flow, I had the capital behind me to account for any drops. And then I also hired the right person based upon values and skill. Whereas the others, they weren't fully aligned. And so it took, even within the integration of that though, that took some time. But having both of my brokers now where the values and the skills are totally aligned, the way that they serve our referral partners and their clients, it's phenomenal and it works. Now I can sit back and actually then start reinvesting my time in my next passion, which was like I said, I was always been a coach. Now I've gone back into the coaching space, and now more where that sits is that I'm able to help the referral partners fill the holes in their business, which is around the sales process. Because regardless of how well I take you through my process and I give you the script part to add this in, if their sales process isn't tight, they might think they're getting a money objection, but what they're really getting is the objection that the client hasn't seen the value in the process or seen them getting a result in the process, where it's not a real money objection. Because if you take away the money objection, which finance does, if they're still saying no, there's something in that process. So it's given me the space where I can go back into my passion, where I can reinvest this in with the coaches. And I've also got another really awesome team member, Laura, who helps me do this. And I've also been able to go into some other ventures, like the one that you got me to start, Alan, which is the podcast, where I get to talk about...
Oh, the good old podcast, yeah.
Podcast with Em, where we get to talk about all the stuff that inspires us and like deeper stuff around trauma healing, around like some of the more intricate aspects of growth and what it really means to be a leader and what it really means to do the inner work and have some of those conversations where people aren't, where it's not really appropriate for me doing that with finance, but creating this other aspect where I can start to explore my own coaching passions again, because I've got the time and space to do so.
I just want to talk about this because this is something I'm really passionate about. What I love about your marketing in general is how different it is, and that difference you may call it your brand, your reputation, but the story that you have around and what you're doing around not only the podcast, but also the deeper levels of like how you're helping people. It's not just like we started this podcast by talking about your finance brokerage and obviously, you know, the high level details of, you know, helping someone get, you know, invest into whether it's education, personal development, whatever the case is, obviously getting paid up front from the coach's aspect. But what I love about what you're doing is you care so much more than just like, yes, the aspect of the deal and how it all works and all those other things, really important. But there's so much more love, beauty, and so much more to it that you can tell. And it's honestly like, from an outsider looking in, and I'm sure I've said this to you before, but I'm going to say it again. It's what has you have so much cut through and so much relativity with your branding, with your videos and everything else, is because there's such a loving level of care in what you do. And so, yeah, like I'd love to understand. There's definitely been some aspects where I may have prompted you, but where does that come from? What has you think, I'm going to put this in my marketing?
I'd love to say I'm that calculated, but I'm not. I think I've always had the ability to see where the gaps are. I've always had the ability to see where the process isn't working, and my care for that comes from, I think what really lights me up at like the deepest core value is that when I see others thriving, that lights me up. And if I can be part of that process, then for me, that feels like I'm living my purpose. And that excites me and that lights me up. And often it's small little things that I see, like little gaps or little thinking things that when I share in my marketing, it's like, oh, if they just knew that, well then I will share it. But my deeper care definitely comes from, I do feel very much part of my soul purpose and mission is to help others live deeply within theirs and thrive. Because when that happens, when I'm unconsciously or consciously doing that, I do feel like this part of me really activates and illuminates. So I think that that's that's a constant thing that's in going through the back of my mind of how can I make this better and how can I help others thrive more. And I think too, like when I was talking about Jody, like the difference that she made in my life, like what I was going through as a little kid, I'd been through so much by that point, to the point where I'd started working with her. I'd experienced like abuse from a babysitter. I'd been sexually assaulted. My dad was a raging, aggressive alcoholic at that time. And when she took me under her wing and when she poured that much love and energy into me, the difference that made to my life, there's some part of me, there's something in there that I feel like if I can even help somebody like 1% of the difference that her love and care made for me, well, then my life's been well lived and I've repaid that.
Wow. That's and it's really powerful what you just shared as well. So thank you so much for obviously getting deep, real and raw for the podcast. I think I'd love to just finish it off on that note. That was beautiful. And it really sums up exactly what we've sort of been talking about is, not having like, whether it's coming from a dark past or a dark, whatever, and seeing the light and aligning yourself with people who can bring out the very best in you, bring out the very good in what you can do, and just keep striving, keep working towards what you know is to be true to what you know really feels right with what you're doing and whatnot. So if people are interested in hearing more about your podcast or even finding you online, what's the best way to find Bowen?
Probably through, lifestylefinanceco.com. That is everything to do with the finance brokerage, how we work, where you need help with your own personal finance or you want to get it set up for your business. That would be the best way to go. And then also the podcast is inspiredconversationpodcast.com, where we talk about everything other than finance with one of my besties, Emma Romano. She's incredible. She's an amazing coach, healer, mentor. There's nothing that she can't help you with. So yeah, that's another sort of different outlet where our conversations are very different. And I'm on all your social channels, so Facebook, Instagram. I think you got me on LinkedIn, YouTube. Ellen's put me everywhere. They're awesome.
Got some really cool videos as well on those channels.
Yeah, I'm there. My name's nothing fancy. It's Kelly Bowen. I think Instagram is like Kelly_J_Bowen. So it's not hard to find. I've kept it really simple from that perspective.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking again. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to get a lot of value, maybe even be able to relate to a lot of the things that you've talked about. So thank you again. And appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Ellen.
So thank you for hanging around right to the end. We hope you've really enjoyed today's episode. And if you have, we'd love some feedback. So feel free to give us a rating on your favorite podcast platforms. Obviously, feel free to hit that subscribe button at the same time as well. If you'd like to, reach out to us personally or reach out to me directly, you can find me on Instagram at Alan Howle, which is AlanHowle. If you're interested in finding out more about how we work with clients to create a video presence, you can head to tripleeffect.com.au, where we create 6 months worth of video content for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, and film it all in 2 days. So we do everything from scripting, filming, editing, as well as publishing all the videos to all of the channels on a weekly basis for our clients. So thank you again for listening. Look forward to sharing another episode very soon.